This discussion will explore behavioral interventions, technological innovations, and community empowerment. The goal is to foster a comprehensive understanding of how these elements can collectively shape a more democratic and sustainable energy future for the country. We have a distinguished panel of experts with us today who will share their insights and experiences. I would now like to introduce the session chair and panelists for our session. First, I would like to call upon Mr. Sanjay Sharma. Mr. Sanjay is the Director of Marketing and Strategy at Carrier India. He plays a pivotal role in shaping the company's direction in various key areas. Now I would like to call upon Ms. Parveen Dhameja. Ms. Parveen Dhameja is an advisor to the Skill Council of Green Jobs and the chairperson of Core Group of Services of the CII Task Force on Bioenergy. She is involved in the development of competencies in the domains of renewable energy, sustainable development, and waste management. Now I would like to invite Mr. Sabyasachi Patnaik. Mr. Sabyasachi is the Director and Country Lead at the Oracle Energy Water. He has more than 24 years of experience in the electricity and energy sector, where he has worked in the whole value chain of energy power industry. I would now like to invite the session chair, Ms. Shrestha Banerjee. Ms. Shrestha is the Director of India Just Transition Center, an initiative of the International Forum for Environment, Sustainability and Technology, IFOREST. She has worked with India and US-based environmental and public policy think tanks over the past 15 years as a public policy professional. Over to you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for, being a shortcut with the tea. I always do events, and it's a real challenge on time management. So, in this session, we will I've been given a very difficult task, in fact, to moderate this session, because when I was looking at, the diverse group of panelists that we have for this session, they come from various walks of life, and also working with a lot of diverse sectors. And the topic that is democratizing our energy future, which is, I believe, more of a concept, an idea, and an ambition, rather than what we can really achieve just through technological solutions. Therefore, the way we will, want to move with the session is that to thread, I believe we have two themes here right now, given the, the kind of panelists we have for the session. One is, there is a clear way of we would like to look at that how behavioral changes or consumer choices can help to democratize the energy future. Instead of a top-down approach, can we have a bottom-up approach in deciding how the energy future should look like, what people can choose, and how can energy access be affordable, and all the things that we are looking, for a transition aspect as well. The second aspect that which this panel can look into is that as we move into, the energy transition, as we continue with it in the next 30 or 40 years, how can we develop the workforce and prepare the people to actually get better jobs, to get better skills, and to engage in the process? I think these are the two broad themes that we have in this session. I'll try my best to, have a thread instead of a disjointed conversation. And what I'll do is that I think for my own knowledge and for also the benefit of the audience today, it will be helpful that if we have a little bit presentation from each of our panelists, very brief presentations and interventions for 5 minutes initially from each of them, and then we continue with the discussions. That's what I'll go by. So first, I would like to invite Mr. Sanjay Sharma. And Sanjay, please, thank you.
some help here. Thank you. Thank you, Shrishta, and thank you, IEEE, for this opportunity here. I'm going to talk on two sub-themes, and very quickly. The first theme, sub-theme that I want to talk about is innovation for customers. You know, what are the various technological interventions that have really been a paradigm shift for customers in the HVAC space? I represent an HVAC organization called Carrier, and that's where my expertise lies, so I'm going to talk about that. The second theme is around demand response ready appliances. So on the first one, one of the significant paradigm shift that we have seen is the move the customers have made today towards efficiency. There was a time when people talked only on first cost, that those times are gone by. Last 2 to 3 decades have seen that people are really, really concerned about efficiency and operating costs as well. And the shift towards this has been technologically made possible by a simple product called variable frequency drives. And in every space of air conditioning today, you can find, whether it is room air conditioners, whether it is VRF or light commercial air conditioners like ductable, cassettes, or chillers, plant rooms, everywhere you find variable frequency drives today. And this product has revolutionized the whole industry. The second shift that the industry has seen is from, let's say, unitary products to central air conditioning. If I go back, let's say 2 decades, I had customers, who for, let's say, a 50-room hotel would want a split type air conditioner in every room. Today, technologies are available where nobody's talking like that. They are looking at efficiency, they are looking at diversity, they are looking at the choice of indoor units in air conditioning, flexibility, control options, and all that is brought in by a product called variable refrigerant flow, VRF air conditioners. So again, several applications today are amenable to more efficient products, unlike in the past. Yet another shift that we are seeing is the shift in temperature settings, a simple thing like temperature setting. The Bureau of Energy Efficiency has done some good work in popularizing, let's say, the 24 degrees centigrade initiative that they took, that all appliances should run at 24 degrees C. That's good enough. The initial setting for air conditioners today is at 24 degrees C, and this initiative itself has the potential to reduce about 8 million tons of greenhouse gases and save 5,000 crores worth of Indian rupees worth of electricity costs. And there were times I know of when a chief engineer in a hotel like this would tell me that I want 18 degrees C in every room even before the guest has arrived. No longer that is the case. They would look at pre-cooling the room to a 28, 29, and when the guest walks in, they set it to their desired temperature. So a very different shift that we have seen. Yet another paradigm shift has been on refrigerants, CFCs, HCFCs, all being phased out, giving way to HFCs, and now HFOs. So the use of green refrigerants is something that has really been another shift that the customers are talking about now, and multiple options are available with customers today. One more shift that we have seen last couple of decades is the product-based selection moving onto a solution-based selection. So it's no longer temperature, no longer humidity alone. It's also about indoor air quality. It's about connected equipment. To find, let's say, a PM 2.5 solution on a residential product 10 years back was unheard of. And to find, let's say, a UVGI in case, or UVGI radiation in fan coil units, air handling units, these are some things which are picking up very, very fast. So these are some solutions that customers really want. They're not merely wanting a simple temperature and humidity control. They are looking at much more beyond that. And finally, the intervention on the product was always sought basis the experience, which meant that if the air conditioner is not working, I would call somebody to intervene. Or if the cooling is not happening, I'll call somebody to intervene. The PCB has failed, I'll call somebody to intervene. But today, with the Internet of Things and data and analytics that can happen on various equipment, the connected nature of all the equipment, there is a whole lot on prognostics, diagnostics, energy savings that can be done. So these are some of the changes that have really happened over the last few decades, and there are innovations available in all these areas which can really benefit the consumer. Moving on to the second theme, which is on demand response ready appliances. So air conditioner very clearly consumes, typically in a building, it will consume about 40% of the energy costs. But that's for, let's say, commercial buildings. Even if you move to residences, depending on the usage or depending on the seasonality, the number would go a little up or down. But having said that, the air conditioners are guilty of kind of creating peak loads. And for that reason, there is a need to bring in a demand response ready appliance. And this is how it works. You need a smart appliance which can generate, which can receive signals from the grid. And once they've received certain signals from the grid, the operating pattern for that appliance needs to change, which means it could go down in terms of its operating load, or it could go down or switch off completely. So depending on what the grid wants it to do. And the grid gets an automatic response. What the user of the appliance gets is lower energy costs or a financial incentive to do so. There are several solutions available in this area today. If you were to look at some of the technologies on VRF, there's something called a power peak cut. You could decide what your limit is. If you could run the air conditioner at 100% load, you could run it at 80, 60, 30. What you can choose, a simple signal can make that happen. On chillers, unloading a chiller to a particular capacity is available. That kind of feature is available. Simple room air conditioners today we have features where you have certain levels of capacity controls introduced, and an external signal can introduce a demand response for the grid. So the technologies have been available in this area. What's been missing is probably the intent with the discoms and with the users as well. On both sides, there are measurement and verification issues on one side. On the user side, they grapple with the availability of comfort to their end users. So those are some of the barriers that need to be overcome. So these are the two sub-themes I wanted to talk about. Thank you. Over to you, Shrishta.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. May I kindly request Mr. Sabajati Patnaik.
Thank you, IEEE, once again for having me here. In each year, in new kind of milestones in the field of decarbonization and energy efficiency. Always happy to be here. Thank you, Dr. Satish. Thank you, everybody in the team. And this is what we are talking about: democratization. All these while, all the technology, all the solutions. We talk about kind of the utility, the developer, the manufacturer, but what we don't talk about is the end consumers. Like I represent Oracle Energy and Water, O-Power, which deal kind of who has a solutions around demand side management, meter data analytics, and energy efficiency, which is into further residential consumers. And that's where I would like to spend a couple of minutes to just give an overview of what we do, and detail can be taken up when we have this panel discussion. So what we do, we try to kind of, when we talk about democratization, what we feel at OPAR, we feel that you need to have the consumer for action or call for action. And that's how, what we do is you need to empower them and kind of provide them with the knowledge, with the tips, which can kind of help them nudge their behavior. If you also have a smart appliance, until unless you use it smartly, it's never a smart appliance. And however smart it is, but then the usage by the consumer makes it more smarter. And that's how what we do is we take the data from the utility. When I say utility, predominantly we work with electric utilities, gas utilities, and water utilities worldwide. In India, we have been working with electrical utilities. And what we do is, from our ML and AI platform, we take the data, analyze, synthesize, along with the behavioral scientists, which we have, to custom-made each and every message which goes to each and every household or each and every individual to nudge or to call for an action. That's kind of where we are. And because what it has been seen that there had been a lot of data. Generally, a human mind goes for the shortcut, which is the best, and that's where we try to see or make an impact that those shortcuts should be the correct one, which will drive the consumers for action. And that's where the behavioral science comes into picture. The way we narrate, send the communication, the way the visuals are, that's how it helps the utility, the consumers, and the grid for a better load management. What we have achieved so far since 2007, when O-Power used to be a startup, in 2015-16, O-Power was taken over by Oracle Energy and Water, and since then this had been our achievements, and which is so simply this is a customer engagement platform using the AI and behavioral science to talk about energy efficiency, which we have saved to the tune of 37.5 gigawatt hour, peak load saving to the tune of 418 megawatt, and more digitally engaging consumers, that which talks about 5 times on the faster clicking rates to the digital channels, and also better program adoption in terms of if there is a utility goes for a program like smarter AC or BLDC fans or LEDs. So we have seen 5 times faster adoption through these interventions. Of course, 165 million of digital cell services had happened. The last, but the most important, the satisfied customer. I mean, yeah, we at electric utilities take customer granted, but then we have a case study which I'll drill down more when what we have found out in terms of the customer satisfaction, because the relationship till date, whether it is a private or a state utility, had been very, very transactional. The bill comes, you pay it, and that's all. So it has to be much more than that if you want to have a bigger goal like decarbonizations. It has to be the consumers in action has to play a very, very vital role. So all these, if I can in my last, so this is what the earlier side has catapulted to 18.3 millions of metric tons of carbon, which we have saved through these interventions globally. So yeah, rest we can deliberate when we come together. Thank you so much for this chance.
Thank you. Thank you, Sabisati. Praveenji, may I please request you now?
Good morning to all of you. I want to thank the Alliance for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to be with you and talk to you about a subject which is of utmost importance. When I saw this topic, democratizing our energy future, it really set me thinking that we have been, I have been in this sector for almost more than 3 decades, and we've been promoting this sector of RE and energy efficiency. But how am I democratizing it? That set me to thinking. So democratizing our energy means, as I understand, that we have to transition to clean and efficient energy, and also we have to have a lot of community engagement. So that is what I'm going to focus on 2 aspects. And both these aspects have been a big highlight in my career. I have done both the things for the last 3 decades. So energy transition. Now this is a big word, we are all listening about it. We have got high goals, long goals I should say. The Panchamitra on COP26, it laid down climate goals, and that is how we have to transit. But how are we going to transit it? We have to create a skilled workforce. We have to go for green jobs. Now, the simplest definition for a green job is a decent job that contributes to preserve or restore the environment. That is the simplest definition. So any sector, any activity which is going to have a positive impact on the environment, that is a green job. It is not necessarily that we have to create green jobs. Even the jobs when we are doing in the regular way, in the traditional sector, when they start doing activities which are going to have a positive impact on the environment, they are green jobs. So we have to promote green jobs. We have to have a skilled workforce which can take up these activities, and we can go to meet our climate goals. Now, the government has been very proactive. See, in the ministry when I was there, renewable energy was a focus sector, but after 2014, the goals were made very big. From 20 megawatt, we were told to do 175 gigawatt. So that was the jump that happened, and today it is much more. So we have to transition, we have to have a workforce where we have more skilling. The government set up this Skill Council for Green Jobs, 2015. In fact, there were 38 sector skill councils, and it is unfortunate that this was the last one to be set up, which is the most important. So 2015, we were set up. We were to create a skilled workforce for green businesses. Now, green business is energy efficiency, clean energy, anything under the sun. So we have got a huge job. We've got so many sectors where we are working. What we do is a little bit a sector analysis. We study the sector, and then we do a skill gap analysis. This is all done with industry, guidance and consultations. And then we come up with the occupational maps and the job roles which are critical, and the training modules, the trainings, and of course the assessments. There is a government has a Skill India portal where you can load up your candidates and you can do the certification, so that the candidate who is certified, he has a sort of confidence. Yes, I have a certification from Government of India. So we have 550 training partners all over the country. We are working in 13 sectors, and then 72 training modules which cover, latest is in green hydrogen, but unfortunately in energy efficiency, we have no training module. I don't know. I had a lot of interactions with the alliance, but still we could not come up with a training module or a qualification pack for this sector. So we have trained 6 lakh trainees and most of them are in the waste sector. Next is this is it. So this is a small background of the organization and the activities we have done. So what are the problems we are facing? Access to training. We feel everybody should be trained, but then we have to reach out to people. We have to mobilize people. So mobilizing the candidates or the industry to get their people skilled, upskilled, reskilled, it is a big job. There's a lot of the funds limitation is there. There is a lot of problem in involving women. We have even trained the salt pickers of Gujarat. Those women, we try to train them in how solar energy can be used for drying the seawater. Then of course awareness, transition support. So these are general problems which we are facing, and I would look forward to the industry to come forward and align with the Skill Council and take advantage of the training modules which we have developed, and you will have a better skilled workforce. I can just share an example of what he was saying about water. We trained about 816 technicians in the 12 CTPs which are in Delhi. And the confidence which those people had after the training, I just cannot explain it. They had never known what they were doing. And through the trainings, they could find a better, meaning to what the work, how the work has to be done. So skilling is very much needed, and it is very essential, and it really, enhances the productivity in addition to other. And now this is community engagement, the second part of it. So all the RE programs, all the RE technologies, they have a community engagement. I have covered the entire length and breadth of the country, meeting people, talking to people, and of course, women had been the uppermost group with which I have been interacted. Because women, if you can, you say if you educate a woman in a family, you are educating the whole family. If you give one solar light to a family, the entire family gets upgraded. They have so much means. I will share later on the experiences I had when I was visiting the villages. And of course, awareness generation, that is also very good for energy efficiency and conservation. We had implemented projects in Haryana for, where the community engagement was done for green technologies. And agro-residue management, this is also one area which requires a lot of mention. So many, we have a high target, 5,000 CBG plants to come up. But how do you organize the biomass supply chain? How do you connect with the farmer that he should not burn his stubble, but he should give it for the plant? So this is all which has to be done, and where the skilling has to be introduced for a better productivity. I'll stop here, we can have more discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, all three of you. Thank you so much. So, when we talk of democratizing the energy future, and going by what you all have been speaking of, and generally when we think of, I believe there are 4 key indicators that are important. First is the question of access to energy. And, in the first 2 presentations, I was noting it is largely targeted to urban consumers in many ways. And we are also looking at a consumer who we are in some ways thinking a little well of. Therefore, affordability is a question if we are looking at, democratizing throughout the economy. The second question is both affordability and access. These are the 2 important. The third is choice and engagement, which all of you touched upon. And finally, I think overall what we are looking at is a better life. Now, it can be through jobs, it can be through, whatever appliances you're using, how you're using, all of that. But at the end of the day, we are looking for a better quality of life. Now, if these 4 are the key indicators of when we talk of, democratizing an energy future. Now, I'll start first, Sanjay, with you. You have mentioned an interesting point, and I was looking at, when I was doing my notes, that they are prioritizing energy efficiency choices in many ways, like things are changing. But, when we look at an economy like India, sometimes also, I don't know, like, price matters for us. Like, can you give me some understanding of what challenges do you think still exists on consumer purchase choices, and if there is any, and how maybe a little linked to that is 1 or 2 key prescriptions that you have to overcome that challenge?
So there are, in fact, many challenges that come in a consumer's way when they're looking at, moving forward towards sustainable choices on energy efficient products. And the biggest one, very clearly, and no shames in saying this, is the first cost or the initial cost. The affordability is indeed a challenge, and products that are efficient need technology. They need to have investments done, and therefore they turn out to be expensive. Yet another challenge that the consumer sees is the perception that electricity cost is too high, and many a times it is also high, but the perception is the one which has to be tackled, because what that creates is that the consumer feels that I may end up buying a product which is efficient, but I will not really get the benefits, and that perception weighs heavily on his mind, and he doesn't go in that direction. Yet another challenge is the lack of awareness that a whole lot of people have. Whether my choices of the product will impact the whole planet. They feel that I'm a small peg in this whole thing. Some even don't even think about that. And the ones who think, they may feel that how does it matter? My actions may not impact significantly. So that's the lack of awareness that people have. And also there are limited choices at times that consumers will have on efficient or sustainable products. All said and done, India is a price sensitive market. So the number of products that you have, or the basket of products for entry tier, mid tier products is definitely higher than the high tier products which are more energy efficient, more sustainable. And therefore there are more choices on the other side than on the sustainability side. And very importantly, the current usage patterns that people have, the traditional preferences that they have, and I'll give you an example, a personal example. My father in his bedroom has a window air conditioner. He doesn't want to get rid of it. He says it works absolutely fine. He has no reason, it is the electricity cost, he can afford it. And while I end up explaining to multiple customers and end up making multi-million-dollar deals on efficient products, I'm not able to explain to him why he needs to change that window air conditioner. So, and that's where traditional preferences sometimes take a very strong root and create those challenges for consumers. So those are the challenges, and I'll dwell upon some of the things that we try and do a little later, as we talk along. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Sanjay. Sabisati, my next question is to you. The demand-side management programs that utilities have been implementing is an important way of looked at for management, power management, power requirement, and also reducing peak demands. Now, you have given the global experience, largely what I believe in your presentation, that how you are intervening to nudge consumer behavior. Can you give some understanding of the India experience?
Sure.
If you can share some.
I'd love to. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, before I dive into this, very quickly I'll kind of take the thread from Sanjay in terms of what he was talking about, the affordability. Yes, that definitely India is a very cost-sensitive market, and electricity doesn't, we as a consumer doesn't look as a commodity. It is a, by default it has to be there, kind of, I mean, like, and if there is an 2 paise or 5 paise of increase in tariff, it makes a kind of uproar, and it is a political issue also. But then, like these kind of as Sanjay very rightly said about the case about his home, and exactly I can tell you a few international cases where one of those one of those outputs is home energy report, which we call it as. And so the way of delivering these home energy reports are multiple. Of course, these channels which I talked about, and also physical one. What we have seen, not only in outside India, but in developed market like US or Japan, these home energy reports also is a dinner table discussions in terms of kind of why it is a dinner table discussion. And then, as I said, I started off in saying democratization and behavioral change. So when our home energy report is designed such, which not only talks about how you consume, but then how you fare among kind of your peers or neighbors. So it is not always like it varies from case to case, but it is not always that you need to be saving electricity, as Sanjay very rightly said, that I can afford, I can save. But then it is always an individual, and this is the behavioral science which comes into picture, that you want to be in the top. Like when you are shown where you are, you will always try to kind of being in the kind of top level. Whether energy savings, money saving, yes, it's all good, but then you want to be in the, that is the kind of behavioral science impact which comes in.
Yeah, I mean, that is where I wanted to come. Now, coming back to your question, we have a very, very successful program within the kind of, the license area where we are sitting, BSES Rajdhani, where we had this program with 2 lakh consumers, and it was residential consumers all across BSES Rajdhani license area, which is Dwarka, Vasant Kunj, Kanpur, New Friends Colony, everywhere. I mean, and besides the energy savings, I don't want to kind of get into the technicalities of the energy savings. Yes, energy savings were there. I can also talk about the amount of energy savings, but then the most important, couple of most important facts which came into light was, which was never been talked about ever in the utility sector, electric utility sector, where the trust, as I said, like, it has been the relationship with the consumers and the electric utility has to be, it was always a transactional way. When there was a matrix, there was a third party who did the survey, which we found out that the trust level of the consumers had increased within those 2 lakhs. Adoptability of these kind of programs, while we sent across these home energy reports, it was 87% of 2 lakh consumers really liked this particular initiative by the utility. So what, and then, like, when a utility comes up and says, hey, you should do in a certain manner, in a certain way, which will reduce your bill, that is automatically kind of creates, because the public always feel that utility is there, the meter is moving fast, and then kind of they're there to make the money. I mean, that's the real mental block, which is all these things breaks in. And one more thing which is kind of we found out that people were more engaged in terms of what is happening, what's next with the kind of by utility. They look forward for these kind of home energy reports. And as Sanjay said, that always that you can't replace, we don't as an Indian, we don't just simply replace to a newer or a better appliance. But then that's how these communication has to be the way we have done it in 3 fronts. One, to let them know how they, with the existing appliances, how they can best use of it. Like, maybe with the old AC, you need to kind of have a better ceiling within the windows, the doors. You need to kind of darken the room. Then you can set the thermostat to 24 plus fan, or kind of the next is a bit of cost, but then you need to do the servicing, overhauling of the existing appliances, which will perform better, kind of Then third is, you need to know, like, the consumer also need to proactively, and that's where we say the solution is no price, no device for the consumer. So there would be no hardware which would be installed for these kind of thing, and there is no price which is kind of which for the consumers, of course, kind of ultimately it is a safe set. So this have been few of the successful outcomes and you can say takeaway from the pilot. And the utility had been really happy, and we are now in a stage where we are trying to roll out pan BSES Rajdhani for the whole 14.5 lakh consumers. And yeah, it has to be scalable. Affordability is definitely one, is the scalability. These kind of programs are economical, fast, and scalable, and that is the key of any kind of if you want to democratize the energy in the future, the consumer needs to be energy aware, energy literate, and this is one real great medium to make them energy aware and energy literate. That's what I
sure. Thank you. Praveenji, I'll now turn to you, because we need to keep some time also for any questions that audience may have for all of you. Green skills is a very important aspect right now, and I believe one of the conversations where the energy transition issue is politically agreeable is when we talk of opportunities of jobs. And I think this is the opportunity story of the energy transition, not looking at that we are going to lose something. Now, but I understand, and what you very rightly said, that there are a number of challenges. And, you know, I am working across sectors looking into the challenges of green jobs. And one of the things that we have come across very frequently is also that there are currently a lot of training programs under various government schemes, and it is being tied up with ITIs and all of them. But the challenge is that these training programs or the skilling programs are not really aligned to the kind of next economy or the green economy that we all are envisioning, be it in the renewable energy space, be it in, you know, hydrogen, anything for that matter. And today we are talking of energy efficiency. What in your way are the 3 key points that needs to be brought, can help to improve this? Is it a funding issue? Is it a communication issue? Because, you know, industry is not engaging with the government. What is it? Like 3 solutions that you would say, given your experience across sectors.
Thank you very much. I would like to first comment on the conversation we had earlier. I would add, see, I have been, interacting and meeting communities and engaging in projects, for this renewable energy devices. There are 2 points in addition to affordability. I would one say is the after-sales service, which is very important with the consumer. The consumer would like to know what is the after-sales provision for and then, this simplicity of operation. That is very important, especially in the rural communities. So we had implemented, I've been doing so many in the ministry also, but a specific project I want to say on electric cooking. In fact, it was on clean cooking. So we adopted about 50 villages under the earlier president's, there was a smart gram model. And under that we adopted 50 villages, and we wanted to, promote clean cooking in the form of improved biomass cook stoves. Now that did not get a take. They were not interested. Alternatively, we offered electric cooking, induction stoves. That immediately took off. But then for that, this simplicity of operation, the demonstration which we had to organize, the camps which the company organized, and then finally the after-sales service. That was very important. That is why we were successful in reaching to all the 12,000 houses, and then the finances. It was a subsidized product, but the balance amount also was given very willingly by the villages. So these things also, they play an important role in reaching out to the consumers. Okay. Second thing, what you have already said, what are the 3 key points? See, first is what you rightly said about the curriculum, aligning the curriculum. I also sometimes feel that the curriculum is not aligned to the job roles which we are projecting, because now see, when we are doing hydrogen currently, now hydrogen, you have a job role of a technician in an electrolyzer. But what I would say, the basic activities or the basic information is to be there, and I want that the children coming, the graduate coming, the engineer coming, he should know more about hydrogen, then only he will go and do the electrolyzer job. So the alignment, and this is there, the new credit policy, or what is the education policy, they are trying to align the curriculum of green jobs in the colleges. That is, we are trying to align it with the colleges. In MET we are talking that if we have a course on CBG, a person doing biotechnology, he would like to know more about CBG, what sort of green practices, what sort of things are required for promoting or taking up this job role. So I feel curriculum has to be aligned with the current academic courses. That is one important thing. Funding, you said yes, that is a big problem. 6 lakhs, I am talking of 6 lakhs, but these are all government supported. Mobilizing from industry is very difficult. Nobody wants to spend on skilling and training. They keep saying we want it, but when the actual courses are, when we put out an ad or we put it that we had an LMS system also where we do online courses, but we don't get so many candidates. And it is a free course. Even this hydrogen course, getting 30 people for a free course was very difficult. We had to send so many emails, interaction with so many PSUs, IOCL, this and all who are doing green hydrogen. Please send 30 people for training. That is also there. So mobilizing is another point, and of course funding. This we could do. We had funds from World Bank, so we could train 300 people in hydrogen for entrepreneurship. But beyond that, until and unless the government supports, it doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Praveenji. I'll now request the audience. We have about 5 minutes, I guess, 5 to 6 minutes. If you have any questions for the panelists, please. And just if it's a question or comments, even brief, but please.
Hi, my question is, I think for Sabyasachi more. You mentioned about demand-side management. Are there any devices that can, for example, let a utility control the amount of electricity that goes into, let's say, households, or say switch off supply for 5 minutes on one phase? Example, the ACs, because the high voltage. Are there any devices like that?
Of course there are, but we don't deal with it, which is called as, automated demand side management, like ADR. But then what we are talking about is behavioral, and automated where utility has this access is not a sustainable one, and it's not a kind of, but then you need to coach, make the consumer aware, and that they should be smart enough to kind of, of course, but then the best way of is to a mix of behavioral and automated demand response. It is there, but just to for kind of to your question, yes, it is there. There is an automated demand response. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I am Anmol Mathur, and I am a building performance consultant from GoLead. So my question is more to Mr. Sanjay, and maybe Madam can also intervene. It is related to the awareness and education about choosing the right kind of systems. So we know that Carrier is one of the pioneers of air conditioning, and Carrier has built a software also, an early analysis program, which is meant for selecting the right size of the system and choosing the right type of system. But as a consultant practicing in India, we've worked with a lot of leading MEP designers. The adoption is very, very limited. And what we've experienced is that people do talk about the efficiency of the product, but they don't ever talk about the efficiency of right sizing. So do you think that as an OEM, have you ever tried to look at the sizes that have come into requests, or do you think that in future there could be a service or at least a validation, that are you making the right choice? Do you think that is useful or maybe taken up?
I'm glad you brought up this point, and we come across something like this day in and day out. And many times we are able to create some kind of a resistance or a pushback to a system design where we feel that we can add value. There is a possibility of a solution that is a value-added solution rather than simply accepting what the original design is. Because see, as we dwell more into a design which is prepared by a building management consultant, we bring in the expertise. So we have this kind of a debate day in and day out. Many a times, because of relationships, it becomes difficult to kind of enforce some bit of that. But there are situations when in such situations, what we try and do is we try and talk about, enumerate the benefits in terms of what appeals to the customers in terms of financial reduction, and that many a times gets him onto our side. But sometimes we, rub shoulders with consulting engineers. I mean, the bigger picture for organizations like us is more important. At the end of the day, if we are able to contribute significantly in terms of sustainable solutions, efficient solutions, I think it is much more than some of those. And many consultants do understand as well. It's not that it works always in the other direction. Yes. So to your question, we do make those interventions. We like to make those interventions. Many times we succeed, sometimes we fail, but it's an integral part of what we do. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think it's 12:30, so we'll close. Not too much to wrap up. I think this is a conversation to go on, because as from an energy perspective, and I think from a green transition perspective, energy efficiency is a very, very critical domain. And in fact, I always think, and I have heard AEEE so many times at so many platforms, that speaking how energy efficiency is an important component of energy transition planning. And given the kind of panel discussions that we had today, I believe we bring in various perspectives. But from a democratization standpoint, I believe the fundamental problem is, for a country like India, is how do you nudge consumer behavior. I'm very confident about it, because we are still a very ambitious economy. People are actually getting into things, they're finding it affordable, they're purchasing more. So it's a very difficult time to nudge that consumer behavior, and I think we all are in a very difficult space. And thank you, Praveenji, bringing in that perspective that we all put trust in the industry, that industry is going to build the workforce. It is important. I mean, one of the industry we are currently working is automobile. And the industry has a very key role to play, but I believe not just consumers, but also showing how various stakeholders, including the industry, can engage in the process and not just rely on government to provide the solutions all the time or the money all the time. That will also be very important. I'll stop to that, and thank you very much, AEEE, for organizing this session.
Thank you so much. That was a great discussion. I would now request Mr. Jayanta Chaudhary, AEEE, to please present the speakers with a token of appreciation. Thank you so much. Our next session is titled Energy Efficiency and Demand Flexibility. We will also be having a parallel session, Efficient